I walked out at 16 when my parents mocked me as their birth control failure to friends. Built a life from nothing. Now they're crying at my door after 6 years of silence. I, 22 still remember the exact moment my life split in two. 6 years ago, I was standing in our kitchen, supposedly invisible as I grabbed a soda from the fridge while my parents entertained their friends. I wasn't meant to hear it. Or maybe I was. Maybe that was the point. Oh, this one. My mom's voice carried that fake laugh she used at parties. He's our family mistake. Birth control is only 99% effective, you know. She pointed directly at me, glass of wine swaying dangerously in her hand. Nobody loves my 99% effective child. Their friends laughed. My dad laughed. My older sister smirked from the corner. I stood there, soda can growing cold in my hand, as something inside me finally broke. That night, I packed a backpack with essentials, some clothes, my school ID, the $40 birthday money I'd been saving, and a toothbrush. I left my phone on the bed. I didn't leave a note. At 2 a.m., I walked out the front door and didn't look back. 6 years passed. 6 years of sleeping on friends' couches, working whatever jobs would hire a high school dropout, eventually getting my GED, and somehow landing a decent job at a warehouse that paid enough for my tiny studio apartment. 6 years of building a life from nothing, of learning to be my own family. Then yesterday, they showed up at my door. I almost didn't recognize them at first. My mother looked older, her hair streaked with gray she hadn't bothered to color. My father seemed smaller somehow. They stood there, tears already forming, as if they had the right to cry. "Can we talk?" my mother asked, her voice breaking. I stood in the doorway, frozen between my past and present, unsure which direction to step. The first year after I left was the hardest. I crashed with my friend's family for a few weeks, but I knew I couldn't stay long. His parents asked too many questions, and I could see the worry in their eyes. I lied and said my parents knew where I was. They didn't believe me, but they also didn't call the cops, which was all I cared about. I dropped out of high school a month later. Couldn't focus anyway, and I needed to work. Got a job washing dishes at a diner where the manager didn't look too closely at my age. Rented a room in a house with 4 other guys, all older, all working dead-end jobs, all with their own reasons for not asking questions about the kid in the smallest bedroom. Sometimes I'd walk past my old neighborhood, staying on the opposite side of the street. I never saw them looking for me. No missing posters, no search parties. Just life continuing as if I'd never existed. Maybe I really was the mistake they could finally erase. By 18, I had my GED and a slightly better job at a shipping warehouse. I'd moved 3 times, each apartment slightly less terrible than the last. I started community college classes at night, just 1 or 2 at a time, whatever I could afford after rent and food. I made it a point never to look them up online. Never checked their social media. Never drove by the house. I cut that life off completely, cauterized the wound so it wouldn't bleed anymore. And now here they were, standing at my door, bleeding all over my clean floor. "How did you find me?" I asked, not inviting them in. "We hired someone," my father admitted. "We've been looking for years." Years? I almost laughed. "Come back tomorrow," I said, and closed the door in their faces. I needed time to think. They returned the next day as promised. This time I let them in, if only because I didn't want my neighbors witnessing whatever this was about to become. My apartment wasn't much, a studio with a kitchenette, a futon that doubled as my bed, a small TV on a milk crate. But it was mine, paid for with my own money, decorated with my own taste. I'd never brought anyone from my old life here. It felt like a violation just having them breathe my air. "You look good," my mother said, her eyes darting around the apartment, probably cataloging all the ways it didn't measure up to their suburban 4-bedroom. "What do you want?" I asked, remaining standing while they perched awkwardly on my futon. They exchanged glances, that silent communication I remembered from childhood, the one that always preceded some united front against me. "We want to apologize," my father said finally. "What happened that night?" "What your mother said. It was inexcusable. We've been looking for you since the day you left," my mother added, her voice trembling. "We filed a missing persons report. We hired private investigators. We never stopped searching." I crossed my arms. 6 years is a long time to find someone who wasn't hiding. "You were hiding," my father countered. "You changed your name. You moved constantly. You left no trail." He wasn't entirely wrong. I hadn't legally changed my name, but I'd been going by my middle name since I left. And yes, I'd moved often those first few years, but that was more about affording rent than avoiding detection. "Your sister misses you terribly," my mother said, pulling out her phone to show me pictures. I turned away. "I don't want to see." "Please," she begged. "Just listen to us." That night, I was drunk. I was showing off for our friends. I never meant. "You meant it." I cut her off. "Maybe you wouldn't have said it sober, but you meant it." That wasn't the first time I heard comments like that. It was just the last time I was going to stick around to hear more. The silence that followed confirmed what I already knew. Those jokes had been a regular feature of my childhood. Little comments about how I was unplanned, unwanted, a burden. How different their lives would have been without me. How perfect their family of four would have been. "We'd like you to come home," my father said finally. "Just for dinner. To talk. Your sister will be there. She's engaged now." I laughed, a short, harsh sound. "I am home." They looked around my small apartment with poorly disguised pity, which only hardened my resolve. "I'll think about it," I said, just to end the conversation. "Now I need you to leave. I have work in an hour." They stood reluctantly, my mother trying to hug me. I stepped back. "We love you," she said as they headed for the door. "We always have." After they left, I sat on my futon and stared at the wall for a long time, trying to decide if I believed them, and more importantly, if it even mattered anymore. I didn't call them, didn't text the numbers they'd left, went to work, came home, continued my life as if they hadn't reappeared in it. But their visit had unsettled something in me, stirred up sediment I'd thought had long settled. A week later, they were back, this time with my sister. She looked different, more mature, her hair shorter, wearing an engagement ring that caught the light as she fidgeted nervously at my door. "5 minutes," I said, letting them in again. My sister started crying the moment she saw me up close. She tried to hug me too, and unlike with my parents, I let her. It was brief and awkward, but something about her tears seemed genuine. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "I'm so sorry I didn't stand up for you that night. I'm sorry I was such a terrible sister." I didn't know what to say to that. She had been terrible, always the golden child, always quick to join in when our parents made me the family punchline. But she'd also been young, following their lead. "We brought something," my father said, pulling out a thick envelope. "Pictures, newspaper clippings, evidence of our search for you." I took the envelope but didn't open it. "We also brought this," my mother added, holding out a smaller envelope. "It's a check. For college, or whatever you need." I handed it back immediately. "I don't want your money." "Please," she insisted. "Consider it the child support we should have been paying all these years." That made me angry. I'm not a child anymore. I supported myself. I don't need your guilt money. My sister spoke up. "We're not trying to buy you back. We just want a chance to make things right." I looked at the three of them. This family that shared my blood but felt like strangers. "What exactly do you think making things right looks like? You think we can just pick up where we left off? Have Sunday dinners and pretend those 16 years never happened?" "No," my father said quietly. "We know too much damage has been done. But maybe we can start something new. Get to know each other as adults." I laughed bitterly. I became an adult the night I walked out your door with $40 and nowhere to go. Where were these concerns for my well-being then? My mother flinched. "We thought you'd come back. We thought you were just staying with a friend to teach us a lesson. By the time we realized you were really gone." She trailed off. 2 weeks, I finished for her. "It took you 2 weeks to file a missing persons report." I checked. They couldn't deny it. The silence stretched between us. "I have a life now," I said finally. "A job, friends, classes. I'm doing okay without you." "We can see that," my sister said. "And we're proud of you. But is it so wrong that we want to be part of your life again?" I didn't have an answer for that. Part of me wanted to throw them out, to protect the independence I'd fought so hard for. Another part, a part I tried to silence for 6 years, wondered what it would be like to have a family again. "I'll think about it," I said again, more sincerely this time. "Really think about it. But I need time." They nodded, understanding this was the most they would get today. "Keep the envelope," my father said, indicating the photos. "Look through it when you're ready." After they left, I placed the envelope on my counter and stared at it for hours before finally going to bed without opening it. 3 days later, I called my sister. Just her. We met at a coffee shop halfway between my apartment and her place. "Thank you for coming," she said, looking nervous. I nodded, stirring my coffee. I looked through the envelope. The photos told a story I hadn't expected. My parents at police stations, putting up missing person flyers, sitting with private investigators. Newspaper clippings about their search. A journal my mother had kept, documenting every lead, every dead end. "Why didn't you ever try to contact me?" I asked. After I turned 18, I wasn't hiding. I had social media. I used my real social security number for jobs. She looked down. "We did try. We sent messages that went unanswered. Letters that came back. The investigators found you twice, but by the time we got there, you'd moved on." I frowned. "I never got any messages." "You blocked us all," she reminded me gently. "And you changed your email. The physical addresses we had were always outdated." It was true. I had blocked them on every platform, created new accounts, changed my email. I hadn't wanted to be found. "That night," I said, when Mom made that joke. "You laughed." She looked ashamed. I did. I was 17 and stupid and trying to be cool. I didn't realize how much it hurt you. I didn't realize it was the last straw. It wasn't just that night, I said quietly. It was years of being the family joke. Years of feeling like I didn't belong. She nodded. I know. And I participated in that. I was the golden child, and I liked it. I liked not being the target. I was selfish. Her honesty surprised me. I'd expected excuses, not accountability. They've changed, she continued. After you left, everything fell apart. Mom stopped drinking. Dad started therapy. They separated for a while, almost divorced. Your leaving forced them to face what they'd done, who they'd become. I absorbed this information, trying to reconcile it with the parents I'd known. I'm getting married in 6 months, she said, changing the subject. I'd really like you to be there. Not for them, for me. But I understand if you can't. I stirred my coffee, watching the cream create patterns in the dark liquid. I'll think about it. She smiled sadly. You say that a lot now. It's better than saying no. She nodded, accepting this. Can I ask you something? Are you happy with your life now? I considered the question. I'm content. I built something from nothing. I'm proud of that. But are you happy? The question lingered between us. Was I happy? I had independence, stability, a few friends. But happiness? That seemed like a luxury I hadn't allowed myself to consider. I'm working on it, I said finally. She reached across the table, not quite touching my hand. Maybe we could work on it together. As siblings. No pressure from them. Just us reconnecting. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I hadn't expected. Genuine regret, genuine hope. Maybe, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. Update 1, 3 months later. I've been meeting with my sister regularly. Just coffee at first, then lunch, then helping her with wedding plans. It's strange having a sibling again after so many years of being effectively an only child. Strange, but not entirely unwelcome. I met her fiancé last month. He seems decent, asked me normal questions about my job and interests without prying into the family drama. I appreciated that. My parents have kept their distance, respecting my boundaries. They send occasional texts that I sometimes answer. Brief, surface-level communications. How's work? The weather? Safe topics. Last week, my sister asked again about the wedding. Will you come? You don't have to be in the wedding party or anything. Just be there. I finally said yes. Not for them, but for her. And maybe a little bit for me too. Update 2, the wedding. I went to the wedding. Wore a suit I bought specifically for the occasion. Sat in the back during the ceremony. Arrived late to avoid the family photos. Planned to leave early. My parents spotted me during the reception. They approached cautiously, like I was a wild animal that might bolt. Maybe I was. Thank you for coming, my father said. It means the world to your sister. I nodded, uncomfortable in the formal setting, surrounded by relatives I barely remembered and who probably only knew me as the runaway son. My mother looked like she wanted to say more, but held back. Progress, I supposed. The most surprising moment came when my sister's new husband pulled me aside. She talks about you all the time, he said. Even during the years you were gone. She kept a photo of you two as kids on her nightstand. Never gave up hope you'd come back someday. I didn't know what to do with that information. It didn't align with my memories. But then again, maybe my memories were incomplete. Maybe I'd been so focused on the hurt that I'd missed other truths. I stayed until the end of the reception. When my sister hugged me goodbye, she whispered, "This is just the beginning, okay? We have time to figure the rest out." For the first time in 6 years, I allowed myself to believe that might be true. Update 3, 1 year later. It's been a year since they showed up at my door. A year of cautious texts, occasional dinners, and slow, awkward attempts at rebuilding something that might eventually resemble a family. I'm not going to lie and say everything's perfect. There are still moments when old hurts resurface, when a certain tone or phrase triggers memories I'd rather forget. But there are also new memories forming, better ones. My mother has been sober for 5 years now. My father is less rigid, more willing to admit when he's wrong. They're not perfect, but they're trying. And for now, that's enough. I moved to a better apartment. Started taking more classes. My sister is expecting a baby in the spring. I'm going to be an uncle. Last month, my mother asked if she could see where I work. I gave her a tour of the warehouse, introduced her to my coworkers. She didn't make a single comment about it being beneath me or temporary. Instead, she said she was proud of how I'd built a life on my own terms. I wish we could have those 6 years back, she told me as we walked to our cars afterward. I wish we could undo what we did. We can't, I said simply. I know, she replied. But maybe we can make the next 6 years better. I'm still the same person who walked out with a backpack and $40. Still independent, still cautious, still carrying scars from a childhood where I was the family joke. But I'm also allowing myself to be something else, someone who's learning that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and that family real family, is something you can choose to build, even from broken pieces. I don't know what the future holds for us. I'm taking it one day at a time. But for the first time in a long time, I'm actually looking forward, not back.